Right, so this video primarily going to be speaking about mechanical tension, how to produce it, how to use mechanical tension alongside high threshold motor unit recruitment, because them two things alongside each other will promote or produce the highest amount of hypertrophic stimulus. So that's what we're going to cover. As always, going to target different parts of each muscle where I think needs working most. Currently my lats need the most work, so I'm doing the lats first. Then we'll go to biceps, I think. Then upper back, or is it biceps, forearms, upper back, then hamstrings? I'm sure it is. Anyway, let's do the first working set, and then we'll get cracking on what mechanical tension is, things like that, and work our way across the video. So as we get towards the end of the video, it will become more high level science, technically speaking. So
how deep is your love? How deep is your love? How deep is your love? How deep is your love?
right, 8 reps, I'm happy with that. So let's just cover the basics, the foundations of mechanical tension first. So mechanical tension as a foundation is something you need to know if you're interested in why muscles grow. If you have any thoughts in your head about muscles breaking down and repairing themselves bigger and stronger, get rid of that right now. Remove it from your brain, completely forget about it. Not true whatsoever. Mechanical tension has generally been thought of as one of the primary causes for muscle growth, but more recently it's been consistently shown to be probably the only stimulus for muscle growth. So taking that into account, you need to know how to produce mechanical tension. This can be quite confusing because mechanical tension is essentially the force produced at the fiber level, because your muscles are made up of fibers, different types of fibers. You have the slower twitch fibers, which aren't as primed for growth. Then you have sort of two sections of fast twitch fibers. It's the higher threshold fibers, so the fast twitch, that are more primed and able to grow. And it is the sheer amount of mechanical tension alongside the recruitment of those fibers that will cause muscle growth. So, like I said, mechanical tension is the force experienced inside your muscle when you're producing or when you're doing a movement. And that mechanical tension is produced when a movement is slow. This is completely the opposite to external force or power. So if you're doing a jump, for example, you're going to have extremely high levels of external force, but really small levels of internal fiber force or mechanical tension. That's because in your muscle, you have to form something called an actomyosin cross bridge, which is where the myosin head, which is something inside your muscle fiber, has to bind to actin, and then it forms a bridge and then pulls itself across like a ratchet, and that is what enables the muscle to shorten. That's how the muscle can essentially have the same amount of mass but be shorter, because these things kind of intertwine essentially. And the longer the actomyosin cross bridges are formed for, the more mechanical tension you'll be producing. That's why when a rep is slower, you're able to produce more mechanical tension because the actomyosin cross bridges are formed for longer. That's the basic foundation. That's what mechanical tension is. So slow reps, or reps that are involuntarily slow, so slow even though you're trying as hard as you can, will have high levels of mechanical tension, but low levels of external force, but then high external force movements like jumps or sprints will have very high levels of external force, but very low levels of internal fiber force or mechanical tension. That's the basics. Let's do the next set and then we'll start to move on to some more high level stuff.
Sex on fire, 'cause I wanted to be the king of something. Now I know how change holds hands with hope.
Right, first lap movement done. Let's hop on to the next one. Right, so we are now going on to the next lat exercise, the seated cable row. I think it's got to be my favourite lat exercise, if I'm honest. Might be beaten by like that Keenan flop we said about before, but I don't know. I think because the Keenan flop is unilateral, might be slightly lower than this, but this is fantastic. Plus, they both train different portions of the lats, so it's kind of a bit of a pointless argument. Anyway, so next part of the mechanical tension experience, let's call it, is learning why that mechanical tension actually causes muscle growth. So you understand the science of it, you understand what actually happens, and you should really understand how to produce it. So it is the slow reps towards the end of a set that are involuntarily slow, that will A, have high levels of mechanical tension, and B, have high threshold motor unit recruitment. So you are working to the motor unit pool where you're recruiting the fast twitch muscle fibers that are more responsible and ready to grow, and have more potential for growth, essentially. Okay, so mechanical tension signals muscle growth because the tension that the muscle experiences is detected by mechanosensors, essentially, like titin, integrin, and costomeres. And then all of these together trigger a chemical process from the signaling called mechanotransduction. So it goes from detecting the mechanical tension, initiating the signaling process, and then that mechanotransduction turns it into a chemical process. And the primary chemical process, or chemical signaling, I should say, that it causes is the mTORC1 pathway, which is the mechanistic target of rapamycin complex 1. That might sound like a bunch of gibberish, but the mTOR pathway as a whole is particularly important, but the mTORC1 pathway is most important because it's responsible for modulating and regulating muscle protein synthesis, which we all know is needed for muscle growth to happen. And that mTORC1 chemical signaling increases the production of proteins like what we said before, actin and myosin. You should be able to put two and two together now. More actin and myosin, the more actomyosin cross bridges you can produce, or you can form, I should say. And then over time, this increases or leads to myofibrillar hypertrophy, which is an increase in muscle fibers in parallel, which essentially means they're increasing muscle fibers next to each other, and that obviously increases the amount of muscle size generally over time. That's obviously not a quick thing to happen, but the increase of contractile proteins, which are the myofibrils, the muscle fibers, increases the overall muscle size over time, assuming the whole thing, that whole process happens consistently over months and months and months. And obviously, like we said, this process does not rely on the weight you're lifting. It relies on the mechanical tension produced. So you can lift as much weight as you want. If it's quick, minimal mechanical tension. Do half the weight, produce more mechanical tension. That's what your muscles care about. That's why it should be a massive thing in most people's minds now that weight doesn't really matter unless you're doing it for the ego and want people to know how much you're lifting. That's all it is. Drop the weight and focus on increasing the amount of mechanical tension and reaching high threshold motor units. That's what it should come down to. All right, that was the next chunk of the science. Let's do a couple sets of this seated lat row, and don't actually know what's next, so we'll have a look. It's a good job no one is like a thief at this gym, because that was literally just sat there for 2 days. But he was a nice guy, he let me take it. Anyway, let's do this. What weight am I doing? 79. Cool, let's get to it. Okay, that was 7 reps. Not too bad, less than I was wanting, but I'll take it. But I kid you not, like, I don't usually say, you know, focus on the feeling, because it doesn't really matter. How an exercise feels means absolutely fuck all if it's not doing all the other right things. But this exercise is doing all the right things and feels fucking beautiful. So, we'll take it as a double whammy. Let's do one more set. And then, what was it? We are on... the Keenan flap is next. All right, let's do this last set. And get onto the Keenan flop. No, why do I keep calling it the Keenan flop and the Keenan flap? It's the Keenan flap, really, isn't it? Right, so we have covered what mechanical tension is, the mechanisms and physiology behind it, and also why it actually causes muscle growth. So you should know the vast majority of information surrounding mechanical tension now. Everything at least that you need to know. So now we're going to move on to the recruitment of high threshold motor units. I think that's another thing that's very important, and to use them in combination with each other, I think is almost like imperative. So you have slow, faster and fast twitch fibers. So type 1, type 2A and then type 2X. Type 2X are the fastest, most primed for growth, and have the highest potential for growth. But in order to reach them fast twitch fibers, you need to work your way towards muscular failure. So as you work your way through a set and it gets harder and harder and harder, your brain has to send a signal called central motor command to your muscles to recruit more motor units, because them previous muscle fibers no longer can produce enough force to complete the movement. So you then have to recruit more fatigue resistant motor units, i.e. the higher or stronger, let's say, fibers that are more responsible for growth. And to do that, you work towards the end of a set, and that is when the speed of your reps will slow down. That is literally all it is. If you see your reps are slowing down, you're reaching high threshold motor unit recruitment. And the high threshold motor unit recruitment bit sounds a bit like a word salad, but if you think of it, they have a high threshold, so you need to train quite hard in a set to get to them, and They are motor units, makes sense, and you have to recruit them. So you recruit them through training almost to failure. You can recruit them shy of failure, but you won't necessarily recruit all of the potential fast twitch fibers if you don't reach maximum failure, but it's a negligible amount, about 5% if you stop 1 or 2 reps before failure. So that's really the basics of how you get to recruiting the muscle fibers that are more responsible for growth. So let's do a couple sets of the Keenan flap, and then we can start to pair the two together and start to look at how you can actually think about reaching high threshold motor unit recruitment and achieving high levels of mechanical tension during your workouts. Right, well, clearly I'm getting quite strong on this movement. So I might need to just whack a gym pin in to give it an extra sort of 0.3 kilos. Because if you've done unilateral stuff like this before, you'll know how much that slightly up the weight. See how the next set goes. That was got 8. So that was technically 14.7 plus 0.8, which is what the gym pin weighs. I think it's 0.8 or 0.5, something like that. But anyway, that clearly made a difference in the amount of reps I could get. So that's the right side done. Let's have a rest and then do the left side. Sat at 8 reps again. That was pretty good. Okay, so little thing I wanted to cover. It's not off topic, but it's not the direction I wanted to go, but I also think it's very important. So the involuntary reduction in rep tempo does not mean your reps have to slow down, assuming they are already slow. You will recruit your high threshold motor units, or you'll have the most stimulating reps will be the last 5 reps of a set, which will also be the slowest. But by extension, that means a 5 rep set, 100% of the reps will be stimulating. So it's like your reps will be slow already in a 5 rep set. So yes, they will slow down already, or as in they will slow down in a 5 rep set, but nowhere near as much as a 10 rep set would. If you do a 10 rep set and go to failure, and the 10th rep is the failed rep, and then you do a 5 rep set and the 5th rep is failure, compare the first and last rep of both of them sets. You'll see a massive difference in rep speed between the two. The rep speed difference for the 5 rep set there will be some, but not as near as much as the 10 rep set. So that's just something to consider. If the reps are already slow, then you're probably not going to notice much difference, but don't worry, you're still producing high levels of mechanical tension and high threshold motor unit recruitment because your reps are already slow at the start of the set. Hope that makes sense. Let's do the last set, or yeah, it is last set. And then we've got some biceps to get on with. Let's go on to biceps. Alright, got my tits out. Let's do the incline cable curl on the bench. This is a fantastic exercise. And if I hear anyone say, yeah, it's because of the constant tension on the biceps. No, it's not. Just shut up, please. It's not at all. I'll explain why after I've done it. Also, because this exercise puts a lot of strain on your biceps at the lengthened position, please just do a nice warm-up set. And then see how you get on afterwards. That's what I would recommend. So let's do the more warm-up set and then we'll speak about it. Well, I don't know on what planet I was on, but that is certainly not a warm-up. It was the shittest form I've ever seen, and did not warm up my biceps at all. Not in a safe way anyway. So, like I said, there's some good science behind this exercise. Primarily, if a muscle has a descending or plateau relationship with length and tension, or length-tension relationship I should say, you want to train it in the lengthened position. Or no, I should say you want an exercise where it's hardest in the lengthened position and easiest in the shortened position, particularly with the biceps, because the biceps can experience a degree of active insufficiency, which is where them atomizing cross bridges we spoke about before can't form properly because the muscle is so short. So because the long head of the biceps crosses over your shoulder too, if you raise your arm and flex, your biceps are super short. But if your arm's behind you, it's stretched past the shoulder, the long head is, and then you can flex it here and still produce high levels of mechanical tension without active insufficiency becoming a problem. So yeah, that's just something to consider for bicep exercises. You want it hardest in the lengthened position. Most exercises for your biceps do that anyway, but it's just kind of picking the best, I would say. So yeah, have a little rest because that like destroyed my biceps, and then we'll do this set. I was stupid, I didn't have a proper lunch before this session, so I'm a bit hungry, but I keep talking without the mic in my face. I've basically had to detach this and not like have it attached onto me, because the first video of this style that I did a couple weeks ago, the audio was shocking because it was picking up the audio from like the music, the speakers, but then when I tried to like do vocal isolation and edit the vocals and remove the vocals from the music, it completely destroyed the audio and meant you could not really hear me very clearly. So I'm doing this now. I've turned the sensitivity down on my audio so it doesn't pick up the external, like the music, and then doing vocal isolation, but then turning the volume up for the isolated vocals. And I think it sounds quite good. My first attempt at that was the last video, so last week's video, the push session on internal moment arms and leverages. So let me know what you think about the audio. I think it sounds quite decent. Right, so now we've covered the vast majority of the science for today's video. We're just going to crack on with the workout. See if you can detect when I'm experiencing high levels of mechanical tension. Sorry, when I'm experiencing, not experiencing mechanical tension, and when I'm reaching the sort of the 5-ish stimulating reps that are recruiting the high threshold motor units. So do that. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, let's crack on with the workout. Onto the incline pronated curl. Again, like I said on the last pull session, this exercise is beautiful for the brachioradialis, so the chunky part of your forearm, this bit. Absolutely fantastic. As long as you work it in the flex position, you're set really, so let's give it a try. Right, that's arms done, or biceps, elbow flexors, whatever you want to call it. Let's move on to upper back. This is probably my all-time favourite rear delt exercise. I mean, it goes without saying, most of the exercises you do should probably be your favourite exercises. Would make most sense. That's just going to help you stick to it really, isn't it? But yeah, so this is rear delts, just supine reverse fly, super stable. Great for your delts, that's all it is really. Not much else to it, so let's get on it. Alright, potentially a little bit lower reps that I wanted. Would like 6 or 7, but 5 ain't too bad. Just gives you a bit of leeway for the kind of stimulating reps for the amount of them. So that's alright though. don't really know what happened there, if I'm honest. Yeah, can't really pinpoint what happened in that one, but nevertheless, usually do incline shrugs, so sort of hit mid upper traps, but I am way too hungry to do anything like that, so we're just going to do 2 sets of 45 extensions from hamstrings, just so they get a bit of stimulus in them, and then we'll wrap up the session. Yeah, there's obviously some poor planning from me, but that's okay. You know, missing out just one exercise for your upper back, you know, you're not going to lose your gains. So we'll just grab, what did I need? Can't actually remember how I do this. Yeah, so if I grab 2 kettlebells,
The dip stand again.
the what?
The dip stand.
No. Gonna grab 2, where is it? Yeah, 2 12-kilo kettlebells. That'll be perfect. I mean, these are different brands, but same weight. So I'm just gonna have to hope that they are actually the same weight. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but why am I waffling? Honestly, I'm just talking too much today. Right, as always, fantastic hamstring exercise. If you didn't already know, the hamstrings are biarticular, so they cross your knee and your hips. So they work equally as effective through hip extension and knee flexion. So if you are confused about that, now you know. So let's do these sets. Don't know if you can see me. I can't even bother to look up. No, you probably can't. You can see my butt. That was 9 reps. I can do more weight than that. I know I can. Oh, okay. Little rest and then we'll go again. Also, just a little pre-warning. If you do this exercise for the first time, do not go heavy. Please, please, please do not go heavy. It's a severely taxing posterior chain exercise. Your spinal erectors are working isometrically to hold your spine straight. Then obviously your hamstrings are working isotonically in a concentric and eccentric contraction. So just be careful. First time I did this exercise, I went way too heavy. Had decent form, but it was way too heavy. Wasn't used to the movement, and my hips just felt awful for days. So yeah, just a little side note. Also, you might feel a little bit of back strain, like lower back. That's completely fine. That's just because your erectors are working isometrically just to keep your spine straight. So don't worry about that too much. Okay, you can probably just see my bum again, but that's the session done. Whew. As always, hit the subscribe button if you're new, turn on the bell icon so you get notified every time I post, and make sure you smash your thumbs up to let me know you like these new styles videos. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.